The Hells Angels call themselves a club, the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. There's charters, and within the charter, the chapter, the group, there's a president, a vice president, a warlord, which is in charge of weapons and retaliations and defense. When I was associated with the Mesa Hells Angels, which is where I started, their president was Bad Bob Johnston. And he was a very well-respected, feared, longtime Hells Angel. I got a call from a Skull Valley charter officer. Get to the clubhouse right now and bring all your hardware, which meant bring your gun. They want people that bring them value. I had spent some time as an associate of the Hells Angel, so getting to know them, getting to let them get familiar with me, and I was invited to the clubhouse. And the invitation, it wasn't so much an invitation as it was an order. Some of the members who were basically working as security told me, you can't bring your guns inside our clubhouse. That's not allowed. And I told them I'm not taking my guns off. And I don't take them off for anybody, including the Hells Angels.
Picture this. The phone rings in the dead of night. A gravelly voice on the other end barking orders from a Skull Valley charter officer. Get to the clubhouse, now. Bring all your hardware. In the world of the Hells Angels, hardware doesn't mean tools or gadgets. It means guns. A call like that isn't a casual invitation. It's a summons to war. But this wasn't a turf skirmish with a rival biker gang. This was something bigger, something unprecedented. The target? The Sinaloa Cartel's headquarters in Los Angeles, the nerve center of a $10 billion drug empire. In one audacious night, the Hells Angels aimed to dismantle a criminal network that had ruled the shadows of the city for decades. What could drive America's most feared bikers to take on the Mexican cartels on their own turf? The answer lies in an invisible war, a clash of titans unfolding beneath the surface of Los Angeles, a city where dreams and nightmares collide. Los Angeles, the city of angels. A sprawling metropolis of nearly 4 million people, where Hollywood's glamour casts a long shadow over Skid Row's despair. Beneath the surface of red carpets and tech startups lies another Los Angeles, one most will never see. This is a world where violence is currency, territory is power, and criminal empires vie for control of a multi-billion-dollar underworld economy. For years, the Sinaloa Cartel, one of Mexico's most ruthless and sophisticated drug trafficking organizations, has transformed Los Angeles into a critical hub for drug distribution, money laundering, and coordination with local gangs. But in 2024, the Hells Angels, an outlaw motorcycle club with a fearsome reputation, decided enough was enough. This is the story of their clash, a tale of ambition, betrayal, and a seismic shift in the criminal landscape of Southern California. The Sinaloa Cartel's silent empire. To understand the stakes, you need to grasp the scale of the Sinaloa Cartel's grip on Los Angeles. This isn't about street corner dealers or small-time hustlers. The cartel's operation is a multi-billion-dollar machine, woven into the very fabric of the city's criminal economy. Since the 1980s, under leaders like Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, the Sinaloa Cartel has exploited Los Angeles' strategic advantages, its proximity to the Mexican border, its sprawling transportation networks, and its large Hispanic population. These factors made the city an ideal hub for smuggling and distributing drugs across the United States. While Angelinos went about their lives, sipping lattes in Silver Lake, surfing in Santa Monica, or navigating the 405 freeway, an invisible empire was being built. The cartel didn't announce its presence with fanfare. No press releases, no billboards. They operated in the shadows, establishing networks that were as sophisticated as they were secretive. Stash houses blended into suburban neighborhoods. Money laundering operations hid behind legitimate businesses. And alliances with local gangs ensured a steady flow of drugs to the streets. These alliances were key. The Sinaloa cartel didn't conquer Los Angeles alone. They partnered with the Mexican Mafia, a prison-based syndicate that controls many Southern California street gangs. In exchange for protection and distribution networks, the Mexican Mafia collected taxes on drugs sold by gangs like 18th Street and MS-13. This partnership created a formidable machine, one that generated hundreds of millions in revenue while maintaining an iron grip on the city's drug trade. The Hells Angels, a brotherhood under siege. Now imagine you're a Hells Angel. You've spent decades building a reputation forged in blood, loyalty, and a strict code of brotherhood. Your colors, those iconic patches on your leather vest, are a badge of honor, earned through sacrifice and violence. Los Angeles is your turf, a city where your club has held sway for generations. But suddenly, you're watching an outsider, the Sinaloa Cartel, sweep into your city. They're not just competing, they're rewriting the rules. Their operations dwarf yours. Their alliances with your rivals, like the Mexican Mafia, marginalize your influence. The drug trade you once dominated is slipping through your fingers. The Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, designated an outlaw motorcycle gang by the U.S. Department of Justice, has a long history of alleged involvement in drug trafficking, racketeering, and violent crime. Since the 1960s, they've faced multi-agency task forces targeting their operations. In Los Angeles, the club had established chapters, built networks, and maintained a fearsome reputation. But by 2024, the criminal landscape had shifted dramatically. The cartel's dominance threatened to render the Angels irrelevant. The scale of the cartel's operations was staggering. A multi-agency law enforcement operation from 2022 to 2024 exposed just how deeply the Sinaloa cartel had penetrated Los Angeles. On November 13, 2024, authorities executed 13 search warrants across the county, targeting stash houses in places like Hawthorne, Compton, and East Los Angeles. The haul was mind-boggling. 88,000 fentanyl pills, 48 kilograms of compressed fentanyl, 46 kilograms of cocaine, 13.7 kilograms of heroin, and nearly 283 kilograms of methamphetamine. But drugs were only part of the story. The operation uncovered an arsenal fit for a small army: 21 rifles, 43 handguns, 2 shotguns, 3 AR-15s, silencers, and over 1,000 rounds of ammunition. These weren't remote warehouses or fortified compounds. These stash houses were hidden in plain sight, in residential neighborhoods where families lived and children played. The cartel had embedded itself so deeply into Los Angeles that it operated with near impunity, its anonymity as much a weapon as its firepower. The powder keg ignites. The Hells Angels weren't blind to this takeover. For years, they had navigated a complex relationship with Mexican cartels. In some regions like Canada, the Angels partnered with the Sinaloa cartel, collaborating on fentanyl and methamphetamine production. But in Los Angeles, the dynamic was different. The cartel didn't want partners. They wanted subordinates. With their vast drug supply, military-grade weapons, and alliances with street gangs, they treated the Angels like relics of a bygone era. The Angels, however, were far from finished. As former ATF agent Jay Dobbins, who spent years infiltrating the club, once said, "They ran right over the top of me and kept going. I was just a speed bump." Despite decades of federal investigations, RICO prosecutions, and asset seizures, the Hells Angels had adapted. They'd learned to operate more strategically, to tighten their security, to exploit opportunities. And in 2024, an opportunity arrived, one sparked by chaos in the cartel's heartland. On July 25, 2024, U.S. authorities arrested Ismael El Mayo Zambada, co-founder of the Sinaloa cartel in El Paso, Texas. This wasn't just another drug lord bust. Zambada was the linchpin of the cartel, the diplomat who kept its factions united. His arrest, allegedly orchestrated through betrayal by Joaquin Guzman Lopez, one of El Chapo's sons, triggered a civil war within the cartel. The factions, Los Chapitos, loyal to El Chapo's sons, and Los Mayos, loyal to Zambada, turned on each other, plunging Sinaloa state into chaos. The numbers tell a grim story. From January to June 2025, Sinaloa recorded 883 homicides, a 294% increase from the 224 in the same period of 2024. Over 500 people went missing in Sinaloa since September 2024. Entire communities lived in fear, with businesses shuttered and self-imposed curfews keeping streets empty after dark. This wasn't just a power struggle, it was a humanitarian crisis. The Angels seized their moment. The cartel's internal war created vulnerabilities in Los Angeles. With leadership distracted, loyalties fractured, and resources stretched thin, the Sinaloa cartel's once invincible operations began to falter. Stash houses grew sloppy, security protocols weakened. The aura of untouchability that had protected the cartel started to crack. For the Hells Angels, this was the moment they'd been waiting for. The club's strict hierarchy, presidents, vice presidents, warlords, ensured disciplined, coordinated action. Unlike the cartel's warring factions, the Angels maintained unity. They had survived federal crackdowns by becoming more cautious, more strategic. Now, they saw a chance to reclaim their territory. The November 2024 law enforcement operation, which exposed the locations of cartel stash houses, provided a roadmap. These facilities, still holding vast quantities of drugs and cash, were now vulnerable. The Angels didn't act impulsively. They planned meticulously, gathering intelligence, conducting surveillance, mapping routes, and preparing contingencies. This wasn't a smash and grab. It was a military-style operation. When the call went out, "Get to the clubhouse. Bring your hardware," the Angels mobilized. Dozens of bikers, armed to the teeth, struck multiple stash houses simultaneously. The cartel operatives, caught off guard, were no match for the Angels' coordinated assault. Drugs and cash vanished. Key operatives turned up dead in targeted killings. The message was clear. The Hells Angels were back, and they weren't to be underestimated. The aftermath: a new criminal order. The details of this clash remain shrouded in mystery. Unlike the law enforcement bust, which was publicized with press conferences, the Angels' operation unfolded in the shadows. Fragmentary reports, anonymous law enforcement sources, and subsequent events paint a picture of a dramatic shift. Stash houses not raided by police were found ransacked. The cartel's Los Angeles operations, worth hundreds of millions, were in disarray. What's most telling is the cartel's response, or lack thereof. Normally, an attack on their operations would trigger swift, brutal retaliation. But in 2024, the Sinaloa cartel was too consumed by its internal war to mount a counteroffensive. Resources were tied up in Mexico, where homicides soared and leadership scrambled to maintain control. The Angels had struck at the perfect moment, exploiting a rare moment of weakness. But this wasn't a victory for justice. The Hells Angels weren't dismantling the drug trade, they were fighting for a piece of it. Their history of trafficking methamphetamine, cocaine, and other narcotics spans decades. This was about territory, power, and market share. The Angels saw an opportunity to reclaim what the cartel had taken, and they seized it. The bigger picture: a war without end. The events in Los Angeles reveal a sobering truth about the drug war. It's not just a battle between law enforcement and criminals. It's a competition among criminal organizations for control of a lucrative illegal market. When one group falters, another steps in. The Sinaloa cartel's weakening grip has opened the door for rivals like the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, street gangs, and opportunistic players like the Hells Angels. The November 2024 bust, which seized over 1,000 pounds of narcotics and arrested 50 individuals, was a victory for law enforcement. But it was a temporary disruption in a trade worth hundreds of billions globally. The demand for drugs, fueled by addiction, poverty, and social despair, doesn't vanish with arrests or seizures. New suppliers, routes, and methods emerge to fill the void. For the communities caught in the crossfire, the consequences are devastating. Neighborhoods like Compton and East Los Angeles, where stash houses operate and gang territories overlap, live with the constant threat of violence. Families endure the trauma of addiction, incarceration, and loss. As Jay Dobbins reflected after his years infiltrating the Angels, "I abandoned and betrayed my family. I made this investigation my priority. My wife and my kids weren't." His words underscore the human toll, not just for criminals or victims, but for everyone touched by this endless war. What comes next? The story of the Hells Angels and the Sinaloa Cartel in Los Angeles is far from over. The balance of power in the city's underworld has shifted, but the drug trade evolves. As the cartel struggles, smaller, more violent groups may fill the vacuum, driving further chaos. The Angels, with their global chapters and history of adaptation, are poised to capitalize on this new reality. But the cost of this war, fought not just by police and prosecutors, but by criminals against criminals, falls on the American people. The violence, addiction, and community destruction continue unabated. As we look to the future, one thing is certain: the next chapter won't be peaceful, and it won't be pretty. The invisible war rages on, and Los Angeles remains its battleground.